Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Donovan Nicholas? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoy this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Donovan Asher Nicholas was born on July 9, 2002, and lived in Urbana, Ohio. His father was named Shane Nicholas. Donovan lived with Shane in a two-story house. Shane had a long-term girlfriend named Heidi Faye Taylor. She had a son and a daughter from another relationship. By 2017, Donovan was the only child in the house. His father traveled a lot for work, so Donovan spent a lot of time with Heidi and referred to her as Mom. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On April 6, 2017, 14-year-old Donovan Nicholas concealed himself next to the front staircase of his house while holding a kitchen knife. He called for Heidi Faye Taylor to come downstairs. When she walked downstairs, Donovan attacked her with the knife, stabbing her multiple times. Heidi made her way to the master bedroom using the back staircase before Donovan used a 9mm semi-automatic pistol to shoot her one time in the head. In addition to being shot, Heidi sustained at least 62 stab wounds during the attack. She did not survive. Donovan called 911. He told the operator, quote, "I just killed my mother and I need to go to the hospital," unquote. The operator asked him what happened. Donovan responded, quote, "It wasn't me it wasn't me who killed her. It was Jeff," unquote. Understandably puzzled, the operator said, "What happened? Who did it?" Donovan replied, quote, "Jeff, I'm sorry, this is going to be really hard to explain, but I kind of have another person inside me," unquote. After he talked about how he stabbed himself, the dispatcher asked, "What happened to your mom?" Still referring to Jeff, Donovan said, quote, "He killed her. He snapped," unquote. After getting Donovan's name, the operator asked, "Are you able to say who's with you?" Donovan responded, "I am by myself, me and Jeff." The operator said, "Okay, and what happened to your mom? What did you do?" Once again referring to Jeff, Donovan replied, quote, he stabbed her, then he shot her," unquote. At this point, the operator asked, "Where did he shoot her?" Donovan said, quote, "In the head, but I swear it wasn't me. It was Jeff. Jeff is inside me," unquote. Still understandably confused, the operator asked, "Jeff is inside you?" Donovan replied, quote, "Yes, he sometimes takes control, and I have no control. I have no control over him. It's not fair," unquote. Later in the call, the operator asked, "Why did Jeff hurt your mom?" Donovan replied, quote, "He was always tired of her. She always did drugs, and she totally, ignored me. Once she hit me, and she was done," unquote. This is a curious statement considering Donovan kept referring to Jeff as having control, yet used the words, "ignored me." This made it sound like Jeff was somehow watching as Donovan was interacting with Heidi. After the operator collected information about the location of the weapons, Donovan said, quote, I am so scared. I didn't want to kill her. I hate Jeff so much. He's going to make me die in prison," unquote. Donovan then said, quote, "He couldn't have taken someone else. No, he took me," unquote. A little later in the call, Donovan wanted to make sure the police would not tase him or use pepper spray on him before saying, quote, "I swear I am not going to hurt anybody else. It wasn't my fault," unquote. A moment later, he said something similar and expressed how he did not want to die in prison. Not long after this, the police entered the house and took Donovan into custody. He mentioned to the police at the scene that he had multiple personality disorder and that Jeff killed his mother. After being treated at the hospital, Donovan was interviewed by the police. Here was the story he supplied to them. After arriving home from school, he took a nap. After waking up, he cleaned his room. At this point, his second personality, named Jeff the Killer, emerged. This alternate personality was inspired by a creepy-looking anime character who appeared in various stories online. Donovan put on a white shirt and black pants and walked downstairs to retrieve a knife from the kitchen. Using a needle, he cut his face near the corners of his mouth in the form of an exaggerated smile. Donovan then took the knife and waited next to the stairs for Heidi to come downstairs. When she did not come down on her own, he called her. As Heidi walked by him, Donovan hugged her from behind. Heidi turned around and asked Donovan about the cuts on his face. At this point, he attacked her with the knife, stabbing her wherever he could. Heidi asked Donovan to call for help, but he refused. She went to the back staircase in the kitchen and up to the master bedroom to retrieve her cell phone. Donovan went ahead of Heidi and grabbed the cell phone before she could get it. Heidi once again asked Donovan to call for help, but he would not do it. After Heidi collapsed on the bed, Donovan retrieved a pistol from a nightstand and shot her one time in the head. During the attack, Donovan unintentionally stabbed himself in the leg. He called 911 after realizing this. Donovan told the police that he had been dealing with Jeff for about 3 months, and Heidi was the only person Jeff wanted to harm. Donovan was charged with murder and aggravated murder. He pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, but all the mental health clinicians who evaluated him found him to be legally sane. They determined he was able to appreciate the wrongfulness of his behavior at the time of the murder. Donovan was not permitted to use the insanity defense at trial. He was convicted of aggravated murder. On July 24, 2018, Donovan Nicholas was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 28 years. At his sentencing, the judge said, quote, "The self-reported emergence of the alternate personality was actually created and promoted by the defendant in order to rationalize and allocate blame for the homicidal act," unquote. In 2020, Donovan appealed his case. His attorneys argued that the juvenile court system abused its discretion by disregarding uncontroverted evidence and transferring Donovan's case out of juvenile court. Donovan's position was that he should have been tried as a juvenile because the juvenile system was capable of treating his mental health condition. The court ruled in his favor, saying that Donovan should have never been tried as an adult. His case was sent back to juvenile court. Donovan Nicholas pleaded guilty to aggravated murder. A few weeks later, on July 9, 2023, he was released. This was his 21st birthday, meaning the juvenile system had lost any authority over him. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. Growing up, Donovan was described as precocious, articulate, and unusually quiet. He struggled with a number of mental health symptoms like depression, anxiety, loneliness, feelings of worthlessness, and thoughts of self-harm. On occasion, he would cut himself. He appeared to have a desire to be different. For example, Donovan would dye his hair black and dress in black. Donovan had no history of receiving mental health counseling, no history of substance use, and no criminal record. The fact that his real mother was not part of his life was upsetting to Donovan, and he was not a fan of Heidi. Item number 2. The alternate personality Jeff led to controversy in this case. Here's how Donovan described his experience with this mysterious character, Jeff. When describing how Jeff emerged, Donovan said, quote, "I grew into two people slowly. Soon the bad side was talking to me," unquote. Over time, it appears as though the bad side became more worrisome. Donovan said, quote, "My bad side started getting bigger and worse. I would think about the options and was often torn, but generally picked the good side," unquote. Donovan thought it was pretty cool to have someone he admired available to talk to. He claimed that Jeff knew murder was illegal, but did not believe it was wrong, and Donovan suggested that being possessed by Jeff was like being in a very, very deep trance. Item number 3. Was Donovan faking symptoms of dissociative identity disorder, or DID? This disorder is also known as multiple personality disorder. It is characterized by two or more distinct personality states, which are often referred to as alters, and features recurrent gaps in the recall of everyday events, important personal information, and/or traumatic events. It is a highly controversial disorder, which is supported by very little evidence, and has been frequently invoked by defendants in high-profile criminal cases. Let's take a look at the evidence both for and against the idea that Donovan was faking DID, starting with the factors supporting this theory. Mental health clinicians who evaluated Donovan came up with various diagnoses. One clinician indicated that Donovan did not suffer from symptoms of a magnitude that would constitute a serious or chronic mental illness. So there was certainly no DID here. A second clinician said that Donovan had depressive disorder, which is nothing like DID. Only the third clinician believed that Donovan actually had dissociative identity disorder. But this clinician didn't exactly make a great case for DID. For example, the clinician admitted that if Donovan had the disorder, it was an atypical manifestation because Donovan was aware an alternate personality was controlling him. Furthermore, the clinician admitted that there was no scientifically valid test for DID. Research on DID indicates that the disorder is rare in adults and almost unheard of in teenagers. Yet Donovan was 14 when he supposedly had DID. Donovan described his alternate personality, Jeff, almost like Jeff was watching him engage in various activities. For example, Jeff knew that Heidi allegedly mistreated Donovan. This is inconsistent with the symptoms of DID. Typically, the disorder does not feature an inter-identity transfer of information. The alters do not share memories or thoughts. Rather, they are separate from one another. Donovan had a motive to harm Heidi. He was exchanging inappropriate text messages with a girl who lived out of state and was worried that Heidi would take his cell phone away from him. In addition, he claimed that Heidi called him a waste of space, did not treat him fairly, and accused him of things he didn't do. It seems awfully convenient for Donovan that Jeff, this mysterious and almost certainly non-existent alternate personality, was intent on avenging Donovan's grievances. Why would Jeff care about Donovan's problems? On the 911 call, Donovan invoked the idea of an alternate personality and expressed concerns about consequences for his behavior. So right away, he was trying to use a mental health defense. Donovan told the police that Heidi was the only person Jeff wanted to harm. How would Donovan know that? According to him, Jeff was in control. Donovan fantasized about killing other people and exchanged text messages with a classmate who also liked dark topics. This makes it look like Donovan was the one in control. Moving to the factors that contradict the idea that Donovan was faking DID symptoms, Donovan started making references to Jeff in January of 2017, 3 months prior to the murder. He had communicated information about Jeff to two other people. Donovan would occasionally wear unusual clothing and used a different style of writing in text messages and notebooks. For example, his writing involved a lot of dots. When considering all the evidence, is it reasonable to believe that Donovan was faking symptoms of DID? There is no way to know for sure, but in my opinion, I think it is reasonable to believe he was faking symptoms. Furthermore, it seems clear that Donovan knew the difference between right and wrong. So whether he had DID or not is academic. If a person knows the difference between right and wrong, they are responsible for their behavior regardless of whether or not they have DID or any other mental disorder. Item number 4, should Donovan have been moved back to the juvenile court system? Donovan won his appeal because his lawyers convinced the court that DID could be treated by mental health counseling in the juvenile justice system. Considering that DID may not even be a real disorder, and Donovan may not have it, this decision is difficult to defend. For example, one mental health clinician involved in this case was unable to cite a single article documenting the successful treatment of somebody with DID who committed murder. Justice was not served in this case. Donovan should have remained in prison. It appears as though he beat the system. Item number 5, what do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. I think that Donovan Nicholas started having thoughts about killing Heidi Faye Taylor a few months before the murder occurred. He fabricated this character, Jeff, to channel his rage into his writing, but the character did not have any other significance at that time. When Donovan decided to follow through with the murder plan, it occurred to him that he could use the Jeff character to fake symptoms of DID. Donovan killed Heidi and lied about Jeff being responsible. His deception was unconvincing, but some mental health clinicians simply need to believe that DID is real. Ultimately, Donovan escaped the consequences of his behavior not because of DID, but because of his age. Now moving to my final thoughts. In the world of mental health treatment, many fantasies persist. Arguably, one of these is DID. An overwhelming commitment to this disorder is a source of continual embarrassment for a non-negligible number of mental health professionals. Even if the disorder is real, which I doubt, it is extremely rare. When considering the case of Donovan Nicholas, it's important for clinicians to ask themselves the question, what is the most reasonable explanation? Is it explanation A, a 14-year-old was possessed by a homicidal, alternate personality who just happened to kill someone the teenager was angry with and then immediately disappeared so the teenager could blame the personality? Or is it explanation B, a 14-year-old killer capitalized on the fantastical beliefs of mental health clinicians to invoke an imaginary mental disorder for which no diagnostic test is available? It's ironic that clinicians would be convinced that explanation A is more likely because the teenager used a writing style that included a lot of dots, yet those same clinicians were unable to connect the dots. Those are my thoughts in the case of Donovan Nicholas. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.